It's time to talk about indoor hockey. And there's a thing in indoor hockey that we refer to as drilling or shelling. There are different regional terms for this. None of those terms, including drilling, for those of you in the USA, are in the rule book. There's basically a very simple rule that covers what we call drilling. It's called danger. And it's rule 9.8. Players must not play the ball dangerously or in a way which leads to dangerous play. That's the whole of it. Now, there is some guidance that goes on to talk about what we refer to as drilling, but that is a term that is not used. Let's start by understanding some physics. Let's take this hockey ball and let's roll this hockey ball to a hockey stick. You see that the rotation of the ball, as if it was passed by somebody over here, as it reaches the stick, it's got a climbing action to it. So it hits the ball, climbs up, maybe goes straight up and hits somebody in the face. That is dangerous, right? If it rolls up the ball, up the stick rather, hits the stick and rolls up and deflects up into somebody's face. Now, that is why, there's a point to all of this, that is why the indoor boards have a 10-degree slant on the inside so that when the ball reaches it and tries to climb up it, it's not able to. It's basically trapped by the trapping position or shape of the board. So it rolls in and bounces off. So let's talk about drilling, shall we? I've made this really cool field hockey player. He's down in a defending position. So if the ball were to slide right into him, it would be very likely that it would bounce off of his stick up into his face. Now, what kind of ball does that? Well, a ball that is rolling really fast. And if the player doesn't have time to react, in other words, it's sent to the player from close by, then obviously it could cause, danger because the player wouldn't have time to react to it. So, what is the guidance? The guidance is playing the ball deliberately and hard into an opponent's stick, feet, or hands with associated risk of injury. In other words, hard enough that it might injure the player. When a player is in a set or stationary position, in other words, it doesn't have to be stationary. The big word there is or. When the player is in a set or stationary position. So it's very possible to be running as a defender with an attacker in a set position. In other words, I'm in a position to defend, but I am not stationary. So injury when a player is in a set or stationary position, and players collecting, turning, and trying to play the ball deliberately through a defending player who is either close to the player in possession or is trying to play the ball are both dangerous actions and should be dealt with under this rule, 9.8, which again reads, players must not play the ball dangerously or in a way which leads to dangerous play. A personal penalty may also be awarded to offending players. All right, now let's use something that maybe helps explain this even more. Let's take this player away and go to my amazing teddy bear. Now, the reason I'm doing this with a teddy bear is because I've glued the teddy bear onto basically a path. So if the path moves, but you decide, you're the player with the ball, that you're going to just go through the teddy bear, no matter what, then you're playing dangerously. Oops, I'm sorry, I hit the camera. So let's take a look at that. Let's pretend that this is the path of the ball. If you push that ball really hard from close proximity into that player who is in a different position, the one illustrated from the drawing, and it goes here or there, then obviously that's going to be considered dangerous because of the physics involved with the climbing action. If your pass goes over here, but it's close, then of course the umpire is still going to consider that dangerous, and rightly so. Now, If the pass is over here, off of the board, if you will, off of the position of the defender, then, well, the umpire has less likely uh, license to call that dangerous because it's wide of the player. But the umpire might certainly call it dangerous. It just depends. If you insist on having a player like that, fine. Doesn't matter. The path stays with the player. The player can be moving, but all the attacker does, the guy with the ball, is just like runs out of options and just feels they have to just send this ball at a high rate of speed at the defender with the teddy bear behind them. Okay. That's my video about drilling.